Well, Phil, thanks for stopping by,
Thank you, Mark. I
making
appreciate
time
you.
making time from your schedule. What is on your schedule today? I'm just curious. What's happening today in your world?
Well, let's see. Today was recovery from yesterday was a full hour and a half, 2 hour interview that was kind of international with Integrity Music, people in England and Colorado, Tennessee, and uh, and I did a few songs and it was they had really good questions and I talked about my history and talked about life and family and all those good things.
Well,
They got up and uh, took my wife, Bernadette, to pick up a ham for Mother's Day.
hmm
And then I took her to lunch. And then we went to the market to get some stuff, some food, and got home. And I'm sorry I missed the initial call for this
no,
interview.
not at all. A day in the life of a rock star. Well, hey,
That's funny.
before we talk about more about you, I want to begin the interview by talking about the song we did together. So, you when I reached out to you to do "Sweet Child of Mine," I think you had an injury right around that time, right?
I I did. Did you contact me around uh was it summer of 24?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I had hand surgery. I had trigger thumb and trigger finger, and my thumb locked up on me, so I couldn't play guitar for more than 2 minutes. And so I ended up getting surgery for that. And it took me a few months to recuperate from that. The first recordings that I did were for Neil Morris and his Cosmic Cathedral project. And by that time, I was able to pace myself in the studio. Uh, I'm really proud of the guitar work I did on that album for him. It's a double album, lots
Well,
of, and it's prog rock music, so it's really deep stuff. But then I got good tones and I got good lines and phrases on my solos and parts, and then I ended up also singing on the album with him. And so that was the first project, and then I started healing up more and more. But the thing is, I also found out that I didn't have the stamina in my hand to do a full concert on the acoustic like I used to over, 5 decades more than that. But
right.
so I'm not touring, I'm not doing full concerts anymore.
Well, we're thankful that you somehow squeezed in that wonderful guitar solo that we used in the film. So thanks for doing that. And even though we
Welcome.
couldn't make the full version of the song because of your
Because
injury, but
oh no, 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 those guitar lines came pretty easily. It was no effort. You initially asked me to play for like 40 or 50 seconds.
right.
Then a couple months later, you said, "Hey, can you extend it to a minute, maybe a minute and 20 seconds?" And then when I found out I was going to be on an album soundtrack, I thought, "Oh, we could have gotten 2 minutes and 30 seconds worth. I could have played more guitar, but that didn't happen."
Well, and then we
I
had a
was,
we
I
had
was
a
a little disappointed in that, though.
we had a grand party in Nashville. That was a
Yeah.
lot of fun, and we got Jamie Rowe, who was with the band Guardian, to sing with you.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was a lot of fun.
Great,
What did
great.
that song? I'm just curious. When that song came out, what were your recollections of it back in the day?
Well, back in the day, I was touring a lot. I was doing band tours, solo tours, and writing music, recording. And I listened to it just like I would have listened to and appreciated a lot of the rock groups of the time.
hmm
So, oh, that's a clever lick. Had no idea one day I would actually be playing it.
Yeah. What do you think of Slash's guitar playing?
Yeah,
Anything?
yeah, he's good. He's really
Mhm,
good, you
mhm.
know. And I mean, there are so many wonderful guitar players out there, electric players, acoustic players, classical players. We've been blessed to have such variety.
Yeah.
And and I also have been a musician who enjoys variety of sounds.
hmm
And right now I'm doing a little project called Classical Sketches because
hmm
I've done some albums called Acoustic Sketches. And this will have a little bit more of a classical feel to it with nylon string.
Hmm.
And in my studio, I can actually work on it, take the time I need to get it right. Sometimes when you're in concert, you only have that one chance, and so
Right.
it's a little harder. That's why I love studio work now. And I'm 75 years old, so I'm no spring chicken. And so
Well, and before we get off Reagan, now did you ever play or open for him, or I thought there was some kind of a connection to Reagan you had?
yeah, back in 1979, he was campaigning to run for the presidency.
Hmm.
And at the time, I was actually living in Kansas City, but I was doing a concert or two out in Southern California. And someone got a hold of my booking agent at the time and asked me if I would be willing to come and sing at one of his campaign speeches. And I said, sure, sure, because, I knew he was governor of California.
Hmm.
I also saw him in the movies as a
Right.
kid.
Right.
Uh, and I really liked him. I also believe he loved our country a great deal. I had a lot of respect for him, even as a man in my, at the time, that would 79, I would have been about 28
Hmm.
years old. And so I got to play on this flatbed truck, you know. I did a set of maybe 5 songs. I can't remember how many songs. But then the headliner, besides Mr. Reagan himself, was Phil Everly, played
Mm.
also on that flatbed truck that day. And as a kid, I was a huge Everly Brothers fan. So
Um,
that was a day that really sticks out in my memory. So
you were the opening act for Ronald Reagan.
I was.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
By the way, lest you feel alone, John Lennon told friends that if he could vote, he was going to vote. He would have voted for Reagan in 1980 of all the people.
Wow,
Yeah, how's that
interesting.
for a shocker?
It's a shocker because uh, I didn't know John Lennon's personal life, although when you're that famous, not a whole lot is held secret. But I know that he, as a human being, was searching for truth.
Hmm.
I have a friend who told me that he found out that he and Oral Roberts had been writing
That's
letters back.
true. That's
Yeah,
true. He
yeah,
was
writing.
writing letters back with Oral Roberts and I think Rex Humbard as well.
Wow,
And
right out of Akron, Ohio, huh?
my favorite is, according to one biographer, John Lennon was calling into the 700 Club hotline asking for prayer for his family.
Wow, is that a
Yeah.
fact?
How's that for crazy?
That's wild. Well, God rest his soul. Here's the good news. I always believe that God loves us with an everlasting love, and His Son Jesus died for all of our sins, and we're all blessed to be able to be saved by grace. That's one of the things I love about the gospel. It's all about grace.
Well, I want to talk about your career. We covered Reagan and the movie and your contribution. And so, yeah, thanks for what you brought to the film. It was a perfect song of that era, as the wall was coming down, and so we just couldn't resist. And of course, we got permission from the songwriters. But you go way back to the 1970s, and by the way, there's this famous legend that Jimi Hendrix said you were the greatest guitar player. Now I know that one is not, as far as we know, accurate, but the one that is accurate that I have in my book years ago was Ted Nugent, who said whatever happened to that Phil Keaggy, he could have saved the world with his guitar. Have you heard that one before?
Uh-huh. And I I knew Ted. My band Glass Harp opened up for the Amboy Dukes a few times. Um, and I ran into him when I was on tour with a band in '86 in Detroit. And he walked past my table and I said, "Oh, excuse me, Ted. I don't know if you remember me, but I'm Phil Keaggy. I was in a band called Glass Harp. We opened up for you." And he goes, "Yeah, I remember Phil Keaggy, but I don't remember you."
What does that mean?
Like he was just trying to be funny, I think.
Oh, I see.
Uh,
Yeah.
because I still had hair in those days. But but he slapped me on the back and he goes, "Hey, are you still playing that Praise the Lord music?" I sure am, in my way,
Right, right.
still rocking.
Yeah. Well, I bring that up because, by the way, I did try to track down the Hendrix quote. I could never find it. I tracked it down to the Tonight Show, but they have no tapes, they didn't keep records of those tapes of the early years. And so if
He
it
was asked,
happened, what's
huh?
that? What's that?
He he was asked that question on the Dick Cavett show,
Dick Cavett show.
and I've seen that a few times. Someone
What?
would send it to me. I say, here, check this out. So Dick Cavett asked Jimi Hendrix, "So what's it feel like to be the best guitar player in the world?" And he looked very sort of embarrassed by the question. He goes, "Let's just say I'm the best guitar player in this chair." That's what I remember him
So where
saying.
did the rumor about you start? Where did that start? Do you think just an excited fan?
Yeah, no, I'm not sure about that. I was talking to my bandmates in the Glass Harp, John and Daniel, and they seem to think that our one of our managers, we had two managers, one of those managers actually coined that to try to promote us.
Ah, well, good
And
job.
and he probably figured, well, you're recording at the same studio in New York
Right.
City, big lady, and um, I don't know. I never heard of it until years and years down the road, but I always laughed at that because, I was 19. I was still pretty green as a guitar player, and he was a giant.
Hmm.
Uh, and I had a lot of respect for him as a musician, as an innovator. Never met him. I once worked with a percussionist named Jumo, I think his name was. I once met with him, but um, but I have been blessed to work with some of the greats, and
Now,
meet.
you were in the studio just before he passed away, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's correct. In
Right.
fact, I think we were up in New York when we heard the news.
I still think it begs the question, whether he said that or not, it begs the question that you have paid a price in this lifetime for the path you chose. You chose to be in contemporary Christian music, and that limited your reach. No doubt
Yeah,
about it, right?
I think so. I had a good friend, actually, Turley Richards. Have you ever heard of him, the vocalist, the singer?
Mm-hmm.
He had a beautiful song. I think it was produced by Louis Merenstein, who was our producer. I heard The Voice of Jesus, which is an old hymn, but he did an amazing folk rock version of the song, and he had a spectacular voice. He called me when I was at the studio at Electric Lady while we were recording our third studio album, and he said, Phil, you should stay in the band because you'll probably reach more people for Jesus if you stay with Glass Harp. Um, but I just didn't know how to actually go through with that because the road is rough, and
Yeah.
I wasn't after fame anymore, and I didn't care. So I got a hold of my friend Peter York, and we just drove in our little car. We had a Volkswagen, and we'd go to colleges and student unions and churches, and anywhere, and you know, and back in those days, in the '70s, CCM wasn't really a coined thing.
Right.
Just us young Jesus people reaching out to the world, reaching out to our generation.
Yeah.
That would be Larry Norman and Randy Stonehill, myself, a lady called Honey Tree, Love Song, who was a huge influence on me, and and Paul Clark. There's so many great writers and people with good big hearts who really
Hmm.
wanted to just. They weren't looking for fame. They were just looking for a way to express their music and the gospel through that music.
Yeah.
And I was one of those kind of people. In fact, after I left Glass Harp, I did an album called What a Day, which to this day, 53 years later is still a treasure
Hmm.
to me, and just the heart of that album, the simplicity of it, but yet there's a depth to it. And thank God, for Gary Hedden. It was just he and I in the studio over that week in January '73 where I recorded that album. I did all the instruments and the vocals, and when I listen to it, there's some sort of a timelessness. And that album, uh, that album was presented to a Christian record label in 1974, and they turned it down. They said, "No, we're not doing this kind of music," and
Hmm.
that was a big disappointment. So, in a sense, I've been a little bit of a square peg in a round hole. I
Hmm.
didn't always completely fit into the CCM thing,
Right.
uh, but I carved my own niche, as you could say, and I did concerts over the decades with great attendance and made a lot of wonderful friends. And they encouraged me so much, as my wife has encouraged me, my kids have encouraged me to keep at it.
Hmm.
I'm going to keep at it as long as I can. And so
Hmm.
I've been, I think, richly blessed, and not necessarily with fame, but with the assurance that I've been doing the right thing all these years and I made the right choices. And I'm still great friends with the Glass Harp guys.
Have you had any unusual fans among, kind of rock people that people might not expect to know that they were your fans?
Well, I recently played on a new Mark Farner song
Hmm.
called Rockstar Angel.
Grand Funk
Uh,
Railroad.
uh-huh. Peter Frampton and I have had dinner a few times.
Hmm.
We used to meet up and talk about our futures back in the early 70s when Glass Harp was recording. He was with Humble Pie.
Mm.
They were working in the same studio, and we were at the same hotel, and we would have breakfast together and talk about stuff.
Mm.
Um, let's see. Linda McCartney once said to a friend of mine about me that, oh, he plays lovely guitar, so that was and Paul himself. I sang it at his wife's sister's wedding back in 1990.
Right.
After the wedding, I was the only music in the whole wedding, and Paul said to me, "You did a fine job. You have a nice voice. Remind me a bit of James Taylor." That's what he said. In all my life, I've been trying to be like a little Paul McCartney,
Yeah,
Uh,
let's find a way to for you guys to collaborate on something.
I think he's already done that with Ringo recently. They got a new song out right now that's pretty clever,
Yeah.
pretty. No, I don't know if that'll ever happen. I don't think so. But
Well,
I did write a song though this last week. I have to tell you about. It's called "Here It Is." Okay, and I'll be glad to send it to you. The writer of the lyrics is Kevin Belmonte, who's a great autobiographer
hmm.
and a poet, a wonderful man, got a great heart. Well, I did a whole album of his poetry called Pilgrimage in 2023.
Hmm.
And then since Christmas time, he's sent me more poems, and I put 10 poems to music. And two of them are about McCartney. One's about him, and the other one is about his bass that was lost for 50 years.
Uh-huh.
It's called Here It Is. It's about the bass getting returned to Paul. And
Wow.
it's cool, and it's got a day tripper vibe about it, and I'm singing it pretty good, and I'm playing my Hofner bass,
Hmm.
which is right here. I
There it
don't know if you
is.
can see it.
Yep.
I've, I've got a nice old burgundy Hofner bass, and I play the Gretsch and I play the Strat into the Vox amp, and I had bronchitis for a couple of weeks, and I was still able to hit all those high notes and sing. So I couldn't sing "Sweet Child of Mine" though. That I could never do that, and I'm sure glad I didn't have to. Uh, I do have a ceiling to my vocals, but the
Yeah.
song turned out so good, and I'd love to see it released. It'd be
Yeah,
fun.
I'd love to hear it. By the way, you made a record that was a very Beatlesque record, black and white cover. Was it the early 90s, late 80s, maybe 88?
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, that was a really great record.
It did.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. Had some great songs on there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Produced by Lynn Nichols. He did a great job, and we had fun in the studio making this album. And um, I collaborated with Randy Stonehill on
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
The late great Mark Hurd was on that album.
Yeah.
Russ Staff was on that album. Rick Kua was on that album.
Yeah, of the
And
Outlaws.
yeah, and Alwyn Wall
Hmm.
was on that album. Malcolm and Alwyn. Jimmy Lee Sloas, James Holohan, Mike Mead on drums. Really a good time. And In fact, RCA Victor Records loved that album and they wanted to release it, but Word wouldn't let them have it.
You're kidding.
Yeah, that's what
Um,
Lynn told me. He said, "Yeah, he said RCA is really interested in this album,
oh my goodness.
uh, but I never quite got on perfectly with the record business. I've been actually independent since 2002,
Yeah.
and it's been the happiest years of my life creatively as an artist."
No, just when I think about the years that you were in the CCM world, I really do, sorry to say, but I do blame the label people and the A&R people and all the marketing people. Like, if you just one person at a mainstream label who would have taken you under their wing could have made a huge difference. And so I know everything is in God's plan and all that good stuff, but
Yeah. Oh yeah.
nevertheless, I wrote in one of those books that I wrote that the culture never got to hear Nobody's Playgirl Now or Little Ones or all those songs. But that is changing today. I noticed these YouTube videos where these rock guitar aficionados play your stuff and they're like reaction videos. Have you seen some of these things?
Yeah, I've seen them because people send it to me,
Right.
and I get a kick out of it, really. And I also get a kick out of the guitar player myself because I mean, I'm playing with so much ease, effortlessness, and now it's more of a challenge since my surgery. And um, but so I really enjoy them. I enjoy the reaction to what they're hearing, and during that time, I was really good at the looping thing. I gotten a bit sloppy because when you quit doing something so consecutively and continuously, you can lose it.
Yeah.
But don't mind actually. I'm in my studio here, and this is the place I create music, and I have a Bandcamp site thanks to my friend Tom Galata, who I believe you met
Hmm.
at yeah the that celebration
Right. Right.
we had. Uh, Tom has made it possible to have a 50th anniversary release of What a Day as a double album and Love
Mm.
Broke Through as a double album.
Hmm.
Bonus tracks on CDs contained in the package. Uh, Tom did an amazing job with the artwork. Somebody famous should hire him. He's that good.
Wow.
But uh, so so I'm still being creative. I'm just not out touring and traveling like I used to. And
Sure.
my wife and I, we've got grandkids now, so
Yeah.
that takes up a good deal of our time, and we love it.
What do you think would have happened if Glass Harp had taken off? How would that affected your family life? You'd been on the road constantly like most rock bands during that time.
Well,
Have you ever thought of that?
yeah, yeah. Um, at the time I met Bernadette, that was 1971, January 71. Glass Harp, we already did our first album in New York, and it was released on Decca. And we were in the process of writing for our second album. And that same year, I also we opened up for the Kinks at Carnegie Hall,
Wow.
uh, November 71, and we have a live album with that, which is really awesome, and that's available through my Bandcamp site.
Mhm.
And, but in terms of, I didn't like being away. I was falling in love with her, and I didn't like being away. I didn't like the long tours too much. Um, and then eventually, well, we got married in 73, and we had our first child that actually lived because we had lost children
You
and
had
child.
a lot of miscarriages, right?
Well, there was we lost three baby boys at
Mm.
5.5 months along in November 75, and then a baby boy who lived 3 days. He was born early at 6.5 months,
Mm.
and then a year later we had a miscarriage at 4 months.
Mm.
That really rocked our world, and caused tears and fears and great disappointment. That was while we lived in upstate New York. And so in 79, after I did this album called Master and the Musician, we moved to Kansas City, and it was like an oasis to us.
Mm.
We were expecting again, and we found the perfect doctor who took care of Bernadette, knew what to do. Dr. Charles King, always remember that name.
Mm.
and Alicia was born in March 1980. In fact, some of the listeners might be aware of the Flipside album
Hmm.
that has a tune called "Just a Moment Away."
Right.
I wrote that song with Doug Pinnick of King's X the night before Alicia was born.
Wow.
She was just a moment away. But yeah, then in 1987, I've been doing some touring, and we had Olivia then in 84 and Ian in 87. And so when Ian was just 4 months old, I'm on tour for 5 weeks in England, Scotland, and Wales. And I said after that tour, I said, that's it, no more of that.
Mm.
So from that point on, I just became a weekend musician to
Mm-hmm.
do 3 concerts or 1 concert and then come home and be with my family, tuck my kids in, and you know, that's how I wanted to live. And that disappointed, booking agents, and that
Sure.
disappointed record companies, and because they figured I didn't sell enough records because I didn't tour enough.
Hmm.
But I had to do what I felt was right, and I think I made the right decision. No regrets.
You
Mhm.
mentioned King's X. You were they your backup band at one point?
Uh-huh. Between January 1980 and I'd say through June of 1980.
Hmm.
And Jerry Gaskill was the drummer, who's the
Right.
drummer from King's X, and
Right.
Doug. Then they formed a group called, I believe, called The Edge. And
Mm.
then from there, they got Ty Tabor and
Yeah.
became King's X, one of the best three-piece bands I've ever heard in my life. They were
Incredible.
fantastic.
Incredible band.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think they
And
paid a price. They paid a price too, even though they weren't signed to a Christian label. I feel like their careers were held back because of their beliefs and their unwillingness to separate their beliefs from their music.
didn't I think they were signed to Atlantic Records too.
Megaforce Atlantic, yeah.
I became good friends with Jason Truby
Yeah,
from POD,
POD. Hmm.
and I played on a couple tracks on their album. And then
Hmm.
Jason and I wrote some music together, recorded together,
That's right.
and have become lifelong friends. And um, I have a lot of respect for his gift and his heart too. He and his wife have adopted, I think, 4 kids.
Hmm. Hmm.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, um, but yeah, it's been a
You wouldn't you
calm,
wouldn't you wouldn't
exciting.
change you wouldn't change what you did though.
No, no, I wouldn't.
Hmm.
And I still remain good friends with my old record company people. I do. We have dinners together. We visit. We talk about old times, and
Hmm.
nobody's perfect. And the Lord was watching over us, and that's why I believe faith in all the practical ways is so important to just in everything acknowledge Him, and He'll direct your steps.
I used to think that people like you, I'm not picking on you, but people like you in the CCM world were like the B team that couldn't quite make it. But
That's true.
the more I met artists all across the board, I realized that's not true at all. It's really a matter of circumstance. And in many cases, you guys were the A team. You just didn't have a Clive Davis or a David Geffen or
Mhm.
someone like that championing you like the other artists did. So I don't feel that way at all these days.
I think things have really improved. Although the primary focus of CCM today, it seems like, is worship music.
Mm.
And of course, I have great respect for people like Keith Getty and his wife Kristen, who have written the kind of worship songs that move me to tears. Fantastic people, and I got to play on his Irish Christmas show 3 times, once at Carnegie Hall as well. But back in the day, my best voice was my guitar playing. And as a singer, that was my secondary gift. Not as, but I think, kind of innovative as a guitar player, and I
Hmm.
took chances. And the A&R people and the promoting people and the heads of record companies that I was signed to really didn't know what to do with that.
Hmm.
And it wasn't what Christian radio turned into, what they were playing. Uh, uh, that's why when you ask the question, do you think if I would have stayed with Glass Harp and remained more secular, uh, that could have happened. But Kerry Livgren of Kansas became a believer too.
Hmm. Hmm.
Although uh, I think the Kansas music that made him famous is still the stuff that people remember, Dust in the
Yeah.
Wind, and etc. But um, I it's hard to know the answers and how to answer these kind of questions.
Yeah.
I just feel like I was a bit disappointed that there wasn't somebody who knew how to champion the instrumental stuff I did, Wind in the
Mm,
Wheat,
mm,
a mastering musician,
mhm,
Beyond Nature.
mhm.
Um, and then a lot of the subsequent, well, I did a Spanish style album called Lights of Madrid that I just recently listened to again for the first time in a long time. And I was really moved by how beautiful that was. And of course, it's all instrumental. The other thing is sometimes you'd see the classification of these albums of mine that have no lyrics whatsoever, and it was under religious, so,
Right.
so even though it's not religious music,
Right.
it was put in that box, and
Yeah.
I just want them to be free, and that's why I think the concerts that I did over the years, Mark, were um, so that audience was they were championing me and I was for them, and we had a great relationship while those days lasted. And
Yes.
so, yeah.
What is it about your playing? I know you're a humble man, but set that aside for just a moment. And by the way, don't forget that uh, uh, false. What is it? What was I going to say? False humility is a form of pride. So we don't want to be either extreme. But
No,
what is it about the guitar? People in the know in the guitar world, they look at you and they go, "Whoa!" I've seen their reactions on the YouTube videos, and over the years, what is it about your playing that strikes these people as being so magnificent and so incredible, just as an objective person?
um, I think it's where it comes from in the heart. Um,
The ability to
emote,
emote, right?
yeah, emote a feeling with a sense of melody and tone.
Hmm.
Even in the Glass Harp, like the Carnegie Hall album, I just had a Les Paul and two Fender Twin reverbs that were souped up, and it was like rockets going off, and no pedal board. It's just sound. And then speaking of Glass Harp, I remember doing "Can You See Me" as an acoustic number in concert. And one time, my road manager told me about this lady, an elderly woman who she got out of her seat while I was playing my guitar and just walked to the back, and he was concerned that she might be not feeling well, and he said, "Ma'am, are you okay?" This was Darren asking her, my good friend Darren, who road managed me, and
Right.
she said, "I was just so moved by this music that I just started weeping," and that's how it affected her.
Mm,
And, sometimes it's joy, sometimes it's a conviction of, man, I need to love my family better or something, or I just want to get closer to God. I'm not controlling any of that stuff. It's really the Holy Spirit that does this work.
mhm,
I just want to be an instrument of his peace or a vessel,
mhm.
conduit. And that was my prayer before concerts, that God use me any way you want and let's have joy doing it. Uh,
But
it's
there are also the technical aspects though that require practice
yeah,
and discipline and all that.
yeah. I started playing when I was 10, really took off when I was 11. Look out, guys. My brother got me my first electric guitar when I was 11. It was an Orpheus. And then that was 62. And then 1965, I got my first Fender Strat. And yeah, here's a picture of me with that Strat when I was in the eighth grade playing with my
Mm.
band Squires. I don't know, can you?
Yes, I can see that. Wow, very cool.
I've got a door full of pictures. My
Mm.
wife is right in the center, and then I've got pictures with friends and my kids, and yeah, yeah. Here, this is me trying to be little Beetle Paul.
Right, look at that.
But uh but yeah, I I wanted here's an interesting story, Mark, is I was playing with the Glass Harp in these clubs, one in Kent, Ohio called JB's, and we would open up for famous bands that would come to town, and we do a set and they do a set. Uh, but we also shared the stage often with James Gang, Joe Walsh's band,
Hmm. Hmm.
49 and all that. And at the end of the night, we jam on Jeff's Boogie. We'd be going back and forth.
Right.
I remember I was just trying to blaze a trail with fast playing and all that. But I would listen to Joe as I would listen to Peter Frampton.
Hmm.
I said, well, these guys are really saying something with their guitars. They're really speaking something like Eric Clapton did, very soulful. It wasn't about shredding, it wasn't
Right.
about
Right.
playing as many licks as you can, notes as you can.
Right.
And that combined with my brand new faith and finding peace with God, thanks to Jesus, that really dovetailed together. And that's why there's not a note or a lick out of place on What a Day. And even Love Broke Through, the next album 3 years later, everything seemed to make sense. And by the time I did the album Master and the Musician, everything felt just so right.
Hmm.
It was out of place. And I tried to maintain that. Then when Wind in the Wheat was recorded in 85, 86, there was more of that. And that album, like March of the Clouds and Prayer and all those other songs on there, Wind in the Wheat itself, um, I can listen to those and feel as satisfied today as I did the year I recorded those.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
then Sunday's Child and Find Me in These Fields, and then I did Beyond Nature, which is uh, a beautiful acoustic album. And I was reading a lot of C.S. Lewis, and I was taking a lot of hikes in the woods and calming down from the rock albums that I had previously done just before that.
Mm.
And that was a side of me that wanted to come out. I also loved Irish music. I loved
Hmm.
classical music that really tugs at the heart, like Vaughan Williams and
Hmm.
Elgar or George Butterworth, and um, what was the other one that was a close friend? Well, Ravel, some beautiful stuff there.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, so
Now, is it fair to say that then the two things on back to the guitar question, one would be the technical aspects, and the second is the ability to translate an emotion into a guitar lick. Is that fair enough to say?
uh-huh, yeah, yeah. I've done some albums with Jeff Johnson. I think our first one was in
Hmm.
2009. Then we did 5 albums altogether. He's up in Washington State, and I'm here in Nashville. We were never in the studio at the same time, but these albums are beautiful and timeless.
Mm.
We just it meshed together so beautifully. The last album we did was called "Spinning on a Cosmic Dime," and the opening track, which is the same title, I do a classical thing, like two classical guitars, a little break there, and then goes back into the theme, and then I do an electric solo that finishes the song up, and it's full of emotion.
Mm.
I played for my friend Gene Miller, and he just said, "Wow," And I remember doing that solo at 2 o'clock in the morning down here, thinking, I'm not sure about it. I'll listen to it tomorrow. And when I listened to it, I go, oh yeah, I wouldn't change a thing because it reached me too.
Mm.
There was another solo, if I might digress, that my wife considers one of her favorite solos I've done on the electric guitar was on the Mickey Dolenz album, Remember.
Okay.
It's called Remember, which is a Harry Nilsson song.
Mm.
And the title track is, I think, the possibly the last song on the album. But I did electric solo on that. That it's really an amazing thing because every 4 bars it
Mm.
changes key 4 times, and it changes time signatures four
Mm.
times, and then repeats that over a period of time.
Mm.
And if you ever get a chance to listen to it, you'll hear it. Vinnie Colaiute's on drums, and
Hmm.
Bob
Hmm.
is on bass, and David Harris, who produced, is on keys, and Mickey's singing beautifully.
Mm.
And see, that album didn't do as much as I thought it would. I
Mhm.
played on 6 of the 12 songs, and I was wondering, I sure hope I didn't hold that album six. But I even talked Mickey into doing I'm a Believer, you
Hmm.
know. Sure, he wanted to recut that. And so I came up with an arrangement, kind of a Bo Diddley thing.
Wow.
Chunk, 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 kind of thing. And it turned out really fun, really good.
What about, let's say, Eddie Van Halen? When you look at Eddie Van Halen's playing with Van Halen, what are your thoughts?
I thought he was really good. I thought, when he played on Thriller for
Hmm.
Michael Jackson, um, just uh, was it Beat It or was it the other one?
It was you Beat
Religion?
It. He played on Beat It.
Yeah, I mean that really caught my ear. And I did a little tapping. I learned how
Hmm.
to do some of that. But
But
not like
is his skill set more on the fast paced versus the emoting, or what are your, yeah, how do you see that?
I think he thrilled his audiences with his technique.
Okay.
But also he had the ability to translate that into the studio, bring
Okay.
it across on record. Some players can really fascinate and thrill the audience live, but to set it in cement and stone on a record, on a recording that's going to have a perpetuity, is that the
Hmm.
word?
Hmm.
Uh,
Longevity, that it has longevity,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah, longevity. Uh, to be able to hold the attention of a listener. That's why that Crossroads solo by Eric Clapton live with Cream is one of the greatest solos. That lit me up when I heard it the first time.
Mm.
I learned the solo as close as I could.
Mm.
Um, but excuse me, I just got over some bronchitis and I still have a little bit of that left.
Mm. No problem. Uh,
Um,
any other players besides Eddie Van Halen that you really
oh,
admired yourself?
well, I think Tommy Emmanuel is a fantastic guitarist, not only on acoustic but on electric. He's a very, very good guitarist. I'm also a fan of Tom Hemby, who's a Nashville guitar player. A
Yeah.
young guitar player named Jonathan Crone is fantastic.
Okay.
A lot of people that people don't know about, there's a guy named Dan Bankhurst who I have a lot of respect for.
Hmm.
Uh, but the guitar players that influenced me in my formative years, you would say was Scotty Moore for Elvis,
Hmm.
from Elvis. Um, uh, James Burton with Rick Nelson,
Okay.
and then I'd say the Ventures,
Hmm.
and then I'd say George Harrison. I
Hmm.
love George's playing, especially in the early days. I mean, I thought, well, he was always good. And then there was Michael Bloomfield, and there was Jeff Beck. I was a big Jeff Beck and Yardbirds fan.
Right.
I saw Beck play live twice, and
Mm.
you know, and my jaw was down here.
Mm.
Um, In fact, he's influenced me a great deal. I would
Yeah.
also say Mark Knopfler is an amazing, wonderful guitar player who
Hmm.
really says something when he plays.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like he's got this cool voice, but his guitar playing is just as cool. There was then as the 70s into the 80s, Pat Metheny, Earl
Hmm.
Klugh, Alan Holdsworth was huge influence. Although I can't play in his language,
Mm.
but I can emulate the emotion of it. And I think I've done that sometimes. People say that's very Holdsworth-ish. And what it is the way he would hold a note, the way he would express that note and how it would come through. It's in the fingers.
Mm.
It's the heart, it's the brain,
Hmm.
but it's how your fingers do it. Um, I think uh, I'm not famous in the big sense of the word,
Hmm.
but I've actually recorded music that I really love listening to. My own guitar playing, I really enjoy it. I'm so pleased that I had the chance to create that. Like an artist who paints and says, I love that. I love what I was able to do. I
Yeah.
thought it was a gift.
I think you have some parallels with Eric Liddell, Little of Chariots of Fire fame, at least the way he's portrayed in the movie. There's a sort of not nonchalance, but you do what you do, and there's excellence there, but you're just
Mhm.
kind of having a good time. And if watch that movie, he's running in the Highlands of Scotland or wherever it is, and he's just enjoying himself. And he wins an award, he wins the Olympics, great. If not, he still had a great run. Do you see any camaraderie there?
Completely, completely. I read a biography about him. I saw the movie at least 10 times. I took my father-in-law to see it. I was a long distance runner at the time. The movie came out. I had already run a marathon, and um, his faith and how he expressed it. I thought Ian Charleston, was that the actor's name? Ian
Ian
Charleston.
Charleston, yeah.
I believe I think he did a noble job of representing Eric Liddell.
Hmm.
And it's interesting. I mentioned this movie in this interview I did yesterday with Integrity Music, and because the movie had really moved me. And when when Eric says to his sister Jenny, the Lord made me for a purpose, but He also
It
made
also
me.
made me fast, and when I run, I feel his pleasure.
When I run, I feel His pleasure. You know, Mark, there was a time I was playing at the one of the Dove Awards, and I was playing March of the Clouds, which is the opening track on Winning the Wheat. And I didn't have a backing track, so I had to play precisely what was on the record, and I learned it note for note. And back in that time, that would have been around 88. Uh, I was so agile as a player, and my mind was younger and sharper, and I nailed it. But I got to tell you, when the bridge part comes, it goes to the five chord. Um, I felt this electricity flow through my body.
Mm,
I actually felt the presence. I felt the presence of the Lord
mm,
on me. That's all. That's the only way I could explain it. It wasn't nerves. It was just a sense of joy, big time joy. And I guess, and when I run, I can feel His pleasure. Is that what he says?
mhm, mhm,
And so when I played, I could feel this pleasure. That was deep and not really of this world in a sense,
mm.
but kind of mystical and spiritual and otherworldly and special.
There's also a great line in that movie where his mentor, maybe it's his father tells him you can praise the Lord by peeling a potato if you peel it to perfection.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I remember the fellow that was coaching Eric Little said to the father, referring to God as a dictator, and the
Right.
father said, "Ah, but a benign dictator."
Benign one. Right. Right.
Well,
Yeah.
in other words, when you put goodness in front of that, what you end up is the results are it's positive and it's good and it's for a good purpose. And our Father in heaven says, our Lord Jesus says, if you love me, keep my commandments. He's not a dictator, but he is a leader and he's showing us the right way.
Mm,
And which is what I love about the gospel and especially the life of Jesus, how he treated people and how he loved children and the great example that he has set for us all.
mm. What
We
are
should
your
be
in the years ahead? What are your unfulfilled dreams? What would you like to accomplish or do in the years ahead, creatively or otherwise?
well. Interesting you asked because on this classical sketches project that I have, it's got about 18, 19 tracks on it. Some are very short and some are expanded. Some have strings, cellos and strings, um, and some are just classical guitar and acoustic guitar. There's one piece I composed with Dave Bainbridge of Iona. Have you heard of the group from the
Hmm.
UK,
Yeah.
Iona?
Hmm.
Well, Dave and I have been friends for a long time and collaborated on 4 or 5 pieces of music. And one of those pieces had this, you know, um, Vaughan Williams-esque thing, or Moran, an English composer named Moran. I forgot his first name.
Mm,
And it's really deep stuff, and he did all um, the strings, with his keys, his keyboards in a lush fashion. And so I played electric to it, In other words, the melodies that his chords prompted out of me, that came out of me, were played and executed. And so this past year, I invited an amazing young violinist named Avery Bright, who lives in Nashville. And I said, "Would you come over? I've got an idea here." So we went through line by line, my lines to Dave's keys,
Mm,
and the symphonic background. And he played every line on the violin. Because when I played that part, I was thinking violin.
mm,
And it turned out so beautiful. So when you ask me, is there something you would like to see? I would love it if this piece, which is about 8 minutes long, 7 minutes long, not terribly long, would be performed by an orchestra with a, a, a featured violinist,
mhm.
playing my lines, and
Right.
I'd be in the audience. And it would be sandwiched between bigger compositions or classical pieces, whatever.
Mm,
Because when I listen to it, I can almost close my eyes and see it on the stage being performed like that. So that's a little bucket list, a tiny bucket, but
mhm, mhm,
but yeah, yeah. Or I did get to play with the Youngstown Symphony and the Nashville Symphony,
mm,
my overture for
mhm,
guitar and strings that was on my Lights of Madrid album. Scared stiff, but I did it, you know. And I played with the Nashville String Ensemble, a whole set of music that was back in the early 2000s. And so, but yeah, I mean, I've had some real fulfillment in my life. And I gotta say that one of the things that is most fulfilling is just having a close-knit family. Now we have almost five grandchildren. One's on the way, a fifth one.
mhm,
And then the friendships that I made with my fellow brothers and believers and
mm,
family in the Lord. I really cherish our neighbors and our friends, and uh, you know, all I could say is life is good.
mm.
A song called "Life Is Good" once too.
Well, we got to
So,
get that. We got to get that collaboration with Paul McCartney going.
oh, wouldn't that be fun?
I'll get to work on that.
That guy just can't stop. God bless
By the
him.
way,
God,
did you what did you think of that Now and Then song that came out last year? I really liked it.
I liked it too, very much. I really thought it was incredible how Peter Jackson was able to separate John's voice from his demo piano.
Amazing.
And and if you hear it, because I saw the video about the song,
Yeah.
and it sounded like he was singing in a very fine microphone.
Hmm.
Uh, um,
It
the
was
video added another dimension to the song. I thought it
right.
was a little bit giddy at times, a little bit silly, but on the other hand, it was cool too.
Such an understated way a song to end all the basically end of their career basically with. I guess it was a John Lennon demo that they
hmm
really worked up, but I just thought it was just had a real sweetness to it, and what a nice way to end their career basically.
Yeah, and I was thinking that John might have been singing to his mates,
Hmm.
now and then,
Miss
I
you.
miss you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I like the song very much. And wow. Free Love and Free as a
Yeah.
Real Love
Free as a
and
bird.
Free as a
Real love
Bird.
and free as a bird. Yeah.
Those were good too.
Hmm.
And I imagine now with technology they can remix that, and they probably have somewhere.
Right.
John's voice is really more up and present,
Yeah.
not you know
Yeah.
in the background. Um, but isn't amazing technology? I've never done anything with AI,
Yeah.
but I have several friends who have, and then their songs are scary. It's like perfect. I'm trying
What
to
we
listen for the soul in it, though.
Yeah. No, we were fooling around in the movie with the idea of having Johnny Cash sing Country Roads. And I actually heard we found what it would sound like. We did it. We did it. We couldn't get family permission, but it's a you better have some conversation with your kids now while you're healthy of what you want done and not done after you're gone, because they'll be
Yeah,
able to do anything they want.
oh gosh, yeah. My son, he's going to be in charge of what do you call it? What's that word?
the estate,
Yeah, but the intellectual property
right?
thing.
And look, yeah,
He's got a great heart, and
mm,
I totally trust him. And
yeah,
um, yeah, it's like at 75, I wake up every day, go, I'm here today,
yeah, yeah,
Lord, help me to live right, love right, and because you know, our days are numbered, as
yeah,
it says in Scripture. But on the other hand, and we're losing friends left and right these
yeah,
days.
yeah.
It's something to really take seriously
Hmm.
and ponder.
Hmm.
But anyway, Paul Overstreet, who's a
Hmm.
great songwriter, a celebrated country writer, we
Right.
wrote a couple songs back in the early 2000s, and one of those songs ended up on a Glass Harp album
Mm.
called Hourglass, and the song is called "If Love Is All We've Got." It's a
Mm.
good tune. Paul and I wrote that. We also wrote a tune called "Charmed and Dangerous."
Mm.
Really a clever, funny lyric and rockin', you know. Anyway, we did the demo, and it had electric guitar and fiddle and fun vocals, and he's brilliant.
Mm.
But he recently sent me an AI version of that song, and it was over the top. It was like Eddie Van Halen, on 11,
Right.
and then plays all the guitar licks, and the singer was like, there was no ceiling to his voice, and he just rocked it and hit all the high notes, and it was like kind of perfect. My
Mm.
friend Tommy Coombs recently had a
Hmm.
one of his songs uh, done AI. I go, gotta be kidding me. All of a sudden, you could hear Michael Bublé,
Yeah.
singing this. Anyway, more power to him.
Well,
I'm a little bit too old to go that way. I like it raw
yeah.
and very human.
Well, thank you for your contribution to the movie, and it was an honor to work with you. And thanks for stopping by today to talk about it.
Oh, thanks, Mark. I appreciate you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Phil.